Today, I am excited to bring you an interview with Dr. Katarina Bulat from Danforth East Wellness, who will not only share the exercises that you should be doing every day to make sure that your neck is staying strong and healthy so that you can get more done, but we'll also discover her amazing success story of how she went from chiropractor to small business owner. So hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe because it really helps me grow this channel, and I would love to bring you even more productivity tips and interviews to help grow your business. Let's dive into today's episode. So welcome, Dr. Katarina. How are you today?
I'm doing so well. Thank you for inviting me. I'm really passionate about making sure that people are healthy as they continue through this pandemic because, you know, even in a regular situation, we have issues, but now we also have stress to add on to that. So anything I can do to help is wonderful.
Yeah, it's so great. And I would just love it because, you know, if we could just dive right into these exercises today, just to change things up for once and really get started by getting all relaxed with your awesome exercises. So what do you say? Are you up for showing some great exercises that we should be doing from home?
Definitely. So what I'm going to do is show you a loosening routine. So it's less of an exercise and more about an opening. And I think that's really critical. And what I'll do afterward is give you some ergonomic and postural advice, because really that's the source of the dysfunction, not kind of the solution. Like the stretches are not a solution, it's the other bits. So let's start with the loosening routine and then go into the other parts. All right, so it's pretty easy. It's almost like a dance if you think about it. So you're going to roll your shoulders back and around and up and down. Then you're going to interlock your fingers and draw them outward. So there we go. So you're going to draw them outward, and then we're going to bring them up and over. Make sure those shoulders are down, but the arms are up. We're going to tilt and hold and tilt and hold. And then the trick is to bring your arms back and lift your head up and really feel that nice opening. And then bring your arms behind your back interlocked, pull down and stretch up. And that's just a really nice way to open up your entire upper body and feel that nice stretch in those shoulders and neck.
Yeah, that feels really great. Awesome.
Yeah. And if you forget it, because, you know, sometimes there's so much overload, my associate, Dr. Patrika, has that uploaded to our Instagram page. So if you ever forget it and want to remind yourself, there's that on the Instagram. So don't you worry and stress about writing it down. You can just go and take a look at that 20-second video or rewatch ours.
And how often should we be doing that?
Every 30 minutes would be great. But you know what? I always say to people, if you can do something once a day, that's one more time than you were doing before. So I take the win. Wins are good. Once a day, ideally, you do it every half an hour. And that leads into my other tip, which is an oven timer tip. So
okay.
You shouldn't be sitting for more than half an hour at a time, because at that point, your brain and your eyes stop working so well, and our productivity actually decreases, unbeknownst to us. We think that the more we sit there and like really focus, we're going to be better, and it's not true. We start to tune out. So, you know, everybody's like, oh, I've got a phone. I'll just set my timer on the phone. You have to have something across the room that you have to actually get up, turn off, and reset. And that's all I want you to do, because that breaks up your patterning and it changes your body a little and gets you that random movement that we're all missing. So I know as entrepreneurs, we're often moving around anyway, but the office people in particular, they're missing the like going to the kitchen and grabbing a snack and saying hello to someone. But also as an entrepreneur, often if you're on a deadline, you're just sitting there grinding.
Oh yeah.
So that's not healthy for anyone. So
no, you're absolutely true.
That half an hour timer is going to annoy you, but it's going to be the best thing for you and your productivity. The other tip is posture. So like, you can do all the stretches you want till the cows come home, but if you're still doing the same posture, you're going to be in big trouble. So with posture, what we really want is your back flat at the back, which sounds really weird because everybody thinks they have to sit up at the table. So it's almost like a 90 degrees between your body and your hips. And then you want to stack your ribs and stack your head, which is a lot different for a lot of people. And at that point, then you can set up your computer. Now, if you're an entrepreneur working at a laptop, I'm going to come over and slap your hand, but not. So I can't really reach over there and do that, but that's what I want to do. So what you want to make sure is that you have a separate keyboard and a separate monitor. And laptops are great for short term, fine, that's fine, but they're not meant to be your desktop. And get a real chair and a real workstation, just at a kitchen table or at a stool, or like, it's really not going to cut it. So make your body comfortable so your brain can do the work. So
it's always funny how we invest in all of these different things, equipment and computers and all these things. But these are the most important things, like a good chair, the right keyboard, to really make sure that we are healthy, essentially, right? That we're not breaking ourselves as we do our work.
Exactly. So there we go. We have a loosening. We have a few tips on posture and ergonomics, and we have the oven timer tip. And I think those are going to revolutionize how someone is functioning and feeling day to day. And that's the best thing.
Yeah, well, that's excellent tips. I think this is definitely a great thing to learn about, because even though it's, you might say, well, this is not necessarily business advice, but it absolutely is, because you can't do business if you are not supporting your own health and your own posture and all these things that's going to give us that productivity to keep going. So thank you so much for that. Really appreciate it. I also just realized that I neglected actually giving you your full introduction. So let me just quickly introduce you so that people know that you have the credentials to actually be giving us this wonderful advice today. Because Dr. Katarina Bulat graduated from the Canadian Memorial Chiropractic College in 2000 in Cum Laude and Clinic Honors, and is a recipient of the Summikel Hoskins Award. I'm going to pretend I know what that is. It sounds very impressive.
It was a clinical award, which was very nice. So
amazing. And she opened the Danforth East Wellness in 2004 after working at another chiropractical clinic in the neighborhood. She's passionate about being a chiropractor to the health and care of individuals and families. And because of Dr. Bulat's history of musicianship, she also enjoys helping musicians improve their performance quality and play or perform with greater ease. Ooh, you're going to have to tell us a little bit about this. What do you play, or how are you connected with these musicians?
Well, I started piano at the age of 3 and reached a very high level of performance at 17. So was doing some pretty hard competing at a local, national level, and one international competition. But so I have that background, plus the Toronto Children's Choir, so choral singing as well, and I picked up flute in high school. So, it was pretty intense part of my upbringing and my learning, and I find that I'm able to combine the work I do with my ears and my eyes and knowing what a musician needs and how we play to improve them. So knowing the kinesiology of my work and what's needed as a musician kind of combines the two, so that I actually have people come in and play, and then I correct them, and then I work on them, and then they play again, and we see this massive difference. So it's been very rewarding working with musicians in that respect.
And does that have to do with posture as well? Is it because when you're holding instruments in different ways that you put a lot of pressure or strain on your body?
Big time. And also combating anxiety. So base level for everyone, not just musicians, is that anxiety manifests in our bodies as a contraction. So head forward and in, and shoulders in, and belly in. And the reason we do that is that when we were being chased by giant animals as we were proto-humans, our safety mechanism is to protect our jugular and intestines because that's vulnerable. So when you are going into a performance with a lot of anxiety, your body wants to contract. So we talk about cues to help undo that so someone can play knowing physically how they should feel rather than giving into the anxiety. So it's an interesting, so there's some performance tie-ins that way too.
That's very interesting. So is this really what led you to become a chiropractor to begin with? Like, was this part of the inspiration?
No, the inspiration was wanting to help people and be involved on a very physical level. Like, I really liked being able to do and enact and take care of people. And so I think this fit. I'm sure I would have done well in any modality that had those components, but this is where I landed, and it's been coming home. So
yeah. So tell us a little bit about that. How did you build your own journey? Because you said that you started as a chiropractor in the neighborhood, and then now you have your own thriving business. So can you tell us a little bit about that journey?
Yeah. Starting out, it's scary because as a business person, you would have to, as a sole practitioner, maybe invest a lot of money and not have patience. And it's a scary proposition. So I started off as what we call an associate working for someone else. And I stayed there for 4 years and built up a practice, but also, it should have been shorter. Winnie, sometimes you realize when the gut is telling you something and you don't listen. So I think that was a big learning those 4 years, that this is not right. But it took me a long time. I was very young when I started to work. I was just turning 25. So,
okay.
You think there's a lot of learning there for listening to yourself and honoring who you are as a person. So that experience was not the greatest, but it gives you so much learning. So that's the other important thing to remember. Bad experiences are not bad experiences, they're learnings. So teachings and learnings that you take with you further. And
often better than any school could have taught you too. Like, I know you have to go to school to be a chiropractor, but just in general, it's amazing what life experience can give you versus in education. And
so I was like, okay, I decided to open up a home practice. So I bought my own home with my partner at the time, who's still my partner, but I think he was maybe not ready for house buying, but I was like, well, this is what we're doing. So we bought a home and I worked out of the basement, and I had always wanted to come back to the Danforth. It was always a dream, and it was like, okay, so this is going to happen. So having that vision really helps you to have direction. So even though it took 15 years, it happened, right? But you have to mitigate new things. Like, I had kids and that delayed things, and the market was weird for a while. And so it was formulating that idea and giving it time to develop that was important. So, it's, as business owners, even though you have the vision, the timing is very important. So don't force it. It will evolve. That's another really important thing, like knowing that that's where I was going and realizing it just needed to be that timing.
And speaking of the vision, was it something that you had from the very beginning, that you knew that you wanted to be on the Danforth, or did that kind of evolve as you then bought the house and then you kind of narrowed in a little bit more on wanting to be there? Or was that always part of the dream?
That was always part of the dream. And I think if the person that I had been practicing with for those first 4 years had given me more of acknowledgement, that was also a learning. Like, if I had been feeling well taken care of and feeling like I was getting value for what I was putting in, I probably would have stayed there. But I didn't like how I was being treated, and I didn't like how it was being run. And I was like, oh, I'm paying you all this money, but what am I actually getting out of it? So also a big teaching for me now, having a space in the Danforth, and how do I want to treat other people who work with me, and what do I want to give, and how do they want to feel? So caretaking the people around me rather than sort of assuming they're just going to be there. So
and can you give me an example of what you have initiated with your employees versus what you were treated to before, so to speak? Like, is there a key strategy there that you have implemented?
I think a lot of it is kindness, which sounds very odd to say, but how are
it's important.
How are you? How is the family following up on important issues? Someone moved recently. I sent her a little care basket, like birthdays, little presents for birthdays, acknowledging hard work, asking if they need help. Is there something that needs to happen? My staff, I don't call it staff, my meetings for the clinic, because I don't consider the people that work with me as staff. I consider them as colleagues or coworkers, because again, that places a different angle. I'm an owner, but I also work and we collaborate. So other clinics also so this was also a big thing for me. The clinic I have is not just a space filler. So a lot of people open up a clinic and they're like, you want to rent? Great. You want to rent? Great. And I didn't want that. So I'm probably bleeding money because a lot of my rooms are empty a lot of the time. But I know that if I pick the right people to work with and that I like and that we have a synergy for, then the whole clinic feels different and the whole space feels different. And I've curated who I'm working with. So when it comes to patient care, I can collaborate beautifully. And if somebody asks me, should I go see this person? I'm like, yeah, I picked them. They're here for a reason, rather than like, oh, I don't know. They just, they rent. So.
Yes, you can really stand behind the team essentially because you have been a part of really selecting who's going to be there. And I'm sure that the customers coming in can see that as well. And that is part of your success journey to why you've now renovated and expanded. So can you tell us a little bit about that? Because you started and now you recently renovated and you have all these additional studios.
That's true. So going from a home clinic to a building was intimidating, but necessary. So what we did was we purchased the building. So that was a big step in its own, because from our perspective, if we were going to put in the time and the energy and the money to create a clinic, I wanted to have the space of it too, and not have issues at the time of lease renewal. Yeah. We had a current tenant on the main floor, and I thought, oh, that kind of sucks. It's going to take so long. And in essence, it was actually perfect, because moving to the lower level and renovating that and getting that up and running and feeling great and ironing out the kinks and getting just a few practitioners in. I took some with me from home because I had already had a few there, and being able to start to expand and deal with branding and more of those things and get the whole of my practice to a new location was really important. So renovating was less stressful than renovating 2 floors at the same time, right. Moving everything, designing everything. It would have been
less costly too, I presume.
Hugely less costly. So we got the lease for the main floor on May 1st of COVID year.
Oh no.
Great. But, and as a responsible owner, I was really impressed because I had saved for the renovation. Who knew? But that became kind of the COVID fund.
Yeah, the bridging point.
And it was a challenge because we had, all of the furniture, there was a backup on everything. And also with COVID, I'd picked out beautiful chairs, but they weren't wipeable. So suddenly I had to like pick out things that were wipeable and change a lot of the design that I was like, that's not, and pick wallpaper. I have wallpaper almost in every room. And so pick wallpaper without seeing the swatches in a way. And it was just, it was a lot of challenge, but you know, what can you do? So I knew it had to happen because the space downstairs was too small for COVID. So the main floor has 2 waiting rooms. It's spacious enough to take enough practitioners. Downstairs, we had to like tag team. All right, I'm working at this time. Now your turn. You work it out, because we couldn't have that many people in. So I knew that the renovation had to happen, even though it was a burden, and that it would be the right thing in the long term. So
yeah, so I definitely see that some of the benefits here being that you had the control by having the full building, which was just a smart move in itself. As a previous brick and mortar tenant, I absolutely can relate to the trouble that you can find yourself in when it comes to leases and renewing of leases and being under someone else's gun, essentially, for how much you're going to be paying. Because for commercial tenants, there are no rules, at least not in Toronto or Ontario, for how much you can increase it per year. So as a business owner, that can be a big headache. But it sounds like you really took the situation and made the very best of it by not only expanding your business so that you can take on even more customers, but you now also have the safety by being able to space everyone out. So amazing. So great to hear these success stories. If you were going to recommend someone else to open up their own clinic, what would be a piece of advice that you would want them to have?
Well, pick the right people. Don't just put in someone who is a placeholder. So you need to surround yourself with colleagues that you trust, and also other business owners that you trust. So developing that network. So surrounding yourself with people who you can lean on for information and advice and help, and not feel awkward asking for it.
That's great advice indeed. Also, just because, you know, this is a productivity show and I love to hear all about the different productivity tools that everyone is using. Do you have a favorite productivity tool that keeps you accountable and on task over and over again?
So the funny thing is that you probably don't remember this, but we were in a networking group, and you had put out that you were testing this tool. And I was like, oh, I'm drowning and I really need this. So I tested out your Kickstarter journal and I was so relieved. So yeah, this was not, for anybody watching, that was not something Winnie was aware of. But the thing that really helped me when the wheels were going off the train was an actual agenda and journaling. And for someone else, it may look like a different kind of agenda or journaling, or like just something that is written or is on electronic paper that takes it out of here and the spinning up in here. Because, you know, and I know, like, as a parent, you have all this stuff for the children spinning around, and for the renovation I had a whole bunch of stuff spinning around, and for just regular patient care and business I had stuff spinning around, and all the compliance issues. So it was all of these things that were like hovering in my brain that I was like, I'm going to be in trouble because everything was spinning. Like, you have to buy peaches for tomorrow for the lunches, and check up on the chairs, are they available yet? You should call them. And like, it was all sitting there weighing on me. Whereas like putting it down in a journal, I was like, you can't worry about that because that's Thursday's task. It's okay. You've got that covered. You don't have to hold it in your brain. So it was really important for me to do that. And whether or not it looks like delegating to someone or journaling or writing, whatever it looks like, find your system and use it. And yours came at a lifeline moment, because I was all about sticky notes, but there was like a billion sticky
my
notes.
enemy.
Like Post-its, like I've had nightmares of Post-its coming to eat me, you know, like, so I got rid of the Post-it problem thanks to you.
That's amazing to hear. I love to hear not only that you're using it and that you've been using it consistently, but the funny thing is that, I found it at a time similar to yourself where I was building my business, we were expanding, there was just so many things going on. And it really was the number one thing that made sure that I stayed on task and that we progressed in our business. And hence why I've been recommending it to so many small business owners, because it's so versatile. You can put anything in there. You can put your life in there, your kits in there, whatever you have on the go. So super exciting.
The amazing thing about it, sorry to interrupt, is that, with her system, you have to rewrite it on the next day if you haven't done it. And, I will knock it off my list just so I don't have to keep rewriting it. Because after you rewrite something 3 times, you're like, I don't want to rewrite this anymore.
Nope. So it's like, I'm not doing it. It's got to come off that list, or it wasn't important enough to begin with, right? Like you kind of have that, make that choice. So amazing. So glad to hear that tool, it was a part of your building success journey as well. Thank you so much for joining me today. It has been a pleasure not only learning about your business, your growth, your successes, but also for you to share with us all the amazing exercises that we absolutely should be doing over and over again to ensure that we have the health ability to work on our keyboards and computers over and over.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm glad I was helpful.
All right, that is it for this week's episode. I hope you have enjoyed not only learning what exercises you should be doing to maintain your health and make sure that you can stay productive on that keyboard of yours, but also learning about Dr. Bulat's own success story of how she went from being a chiropractor at another clinic to essentially owning her own studio, being the boss, having multiple people working for her, and expanding her practice. It is truly an amazing story, and thank you so much for sharing it. My name is Winnie Standish, and I am a strategic business coach. And if you'd like to learn more about how I help small business owners grow their business and find the right productivity tools using data-driven strategies, then you can connect with me right here or visit one of my social handles. Have a positive day.